It's almost thinking like a content company, that you're trying to, come up with a release every month, and that has to hit the market and it has to be a hit.
When we're actually able to see that in action in the eyes of the children and the families, that has its own reward in itself.
So, welcome, dear audience. We are here with another exciting episode of Really. Today's episode is extra special because it promises to be extra fun. I think we all wonder, right, what makes toys so special? It's something that's very magical that takes children into another world of learning, fun, and imagination. And our guests today have taken that very wonder and transformed it into reality, changing the way children play, learn, and grow. Meet Ravi, Jalan, and Disha Katharani. We have co-founders of Imagimake with us. Imagimake is an award-winning startup building fun and constructive toys for children. You can find their Chandrayaan space models and their magic clay arts on Amazon, Flipkart, First Cry, even offline stores across India, and they also sell in 25 plus countries across the world. So let's kick this conversation right off. Anupam and I are very excited to have you on our show. Thank you, Ravi and Disha, for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your backstories and how did Imagimake come into being? I think we are curious about that. So maybe we'll start with Ravi if you want to kick it off.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you so much, Rinku and Anupam, for this opportunity. Very delighted to be a part of this conversation, and to share our journey. So I think a lot of our journey includes, what not to be done rather than what to be done. So I guess maybe, we'll be able to, talk about both hopefully as we progress. So I just to give a little bit background about myself, I did my engineering from VIT Meshra Ranchi, and I'm a production engineer, passed out in 2003. And post that, I had, joined NITI, which is now IIM Mumbai. So I graduated in 2005, went on to work for a consulting firm for around 5 years, as part of the consumer products vertical. I mean, we are beginning into consumer products, retail and, healthcare. So got a very good, opportunity to learn about a lot of things in those 5 years, because that was my first experience with the corporate world. And I think consulting really gives you an opportunity to, really structure your thoughts, your ideas and present in a more coherent manner. And I think so that was a fabulous opportunity in terms of being able to work with, such a diverse group of clients. So, included, companies like Future Group on one hand, to Unilever on the other hand. So, and working across a wide range of assignments like, from cost reduction to process improvement. So I think those 5 years was a roller coaster in terms of learning, doing different types of projects. And then we went on. I think that's where Disha and I met. So Disha was also part of the ENY team, I think we overlapped for a couple of years. So after that, I had joined Future Group, so while consulting is great to, get a, bird's eye view of how businesses are done. But, there's always this, feeling of trying more hands-on, exposure to the business. So that's, that prompted me to go to Future Group, where I was looking after the operations for future value retail formats, which was Big Bazaar,
Nice.
for the West Zone. So, we had around 45 Big Bazaars in our zone and few other food bazaars. So, I mean, again, it was like a, sea change in the experience that I had so far, and, I mean, the real life challenges of actually doing business dawned upon, when we were in Future Group. So
I can tell you the retail is very different and very, I think, a lot of learnings in retail when you do retail.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, the fact of the matter is that, so while I was in retail consulting before that, right? But I mean, view we had of retail business, as a consultant and as someone who's driving the operations is so different. I mean, the grassroots challenges really are, more apparent when we are in an operational role.
Right.
So I think that was something which was a great exposure for me personally. And I think by that time, Disha had already started working on some, early version of Imagimate. So I think with that, I'll probably let Disha also introduce herself and, maybe we can take it forward from there.
Yes, Disha.
Great. Thanks again for having us. Delighted to be able to tell a little bit of the Imagimake story here. So I guess like Ravi, I'll probably start off with a little bit about myself and then move into Imagimake. So I have been interested in the space of children and child development since pretty early years. I had been volunteering for an NGO called Pratham, which works for the education of underprivileged children in India during my school and college years. And that was a very, very interesting experience for me because the kind of learning that I had experienced myself in school was so different from the way these children were being taught. And that is where I could see activity based teaching, play based learning really coming into shape. When you're dealing with children from under resourced communities, getting them to even just pay attention and listen to what the teacher is saying, get involved in the subject matter is a task itself, right? So I think that experience itself started building affinity for play. Our whole family loves play from every angle imaginable. So it was beautiful to see parallels of what impact play can have in terms of bringing a family together, in terms of helping a child learn and grow. And somewhere these things started working at the back of my mind in order to say that, okay, maybe someday this is a space that I could do something in. But very honestly, my educational journey and start of the career were in a very, very different direction. So I went ahead and did engineering from a US college. It's called Swarthmore College. It's right outside of Philadelphia in the US. Came back to India, worked with Ernst & Young. So that's where, like Ravi said, we met. After that, I went to do an MBA from ISB, Hyderabad. So was there for a year or so. While I was there, though, then it finally started dawning upon me that, I don't want to get back into the corporate world. I want to start off on a path of our own. Ravi had been very passionate about entrepreneurship pretty much since our early conversations. So we would often talk about, okay, what can we do? What could things be like? And that's how certain versions of where Imagimake is today probably started. So we actually started with activity centers. We had about 3 activity centers in Mumbai where we would be selling products as well as, had a space where children could open up these products and play with them, do certain activities, experience the product itself over there as well. So that was a wonderful opportunity once again to be able to really get connected with the consumer, understand how children are interacting with products, what are parents seeking when they are looking at such products and activities, as well as get a real understanding of what the market has to offer. Because at that time, we did not have Imagimake products, right? So we used to buy products from the retail, not from the retail, but from the products that were existingly available in the retail space. And we would stock and sell those. So on the one hand, we had fantastic brands, international brands like Lego, Melissa and Doug, etc. Excellent products, great play value, great learning. But of course, the price point wasn't very palatable for the Indian consumers to have the kind of frequency with which they may want to consume this kind of material. And on the other hand, you had products that were, more economical, often locally made, but at the same time did not offer the quality or the value that the consumers were seeking. And that's where a lot of our ideas started generating, and we started creating activities of our own, which we started offering as a parallel to the other offerings that were. And those are getting a fantastic response from the people who were walking in. Not only were they being picked up for consumption during play while they were at the activity center, but we keep getting requests that, can you box this up? I want to take it home so that the child can continue playing, or can I gift it to a friend or a family member, so on and so forth. So that's where the product business of Imagimake actually started. And sorry.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just asking, these activity centers, were it, how were they? Were it like any age limit was there, or what was the model behind? Was it like today we see fun game zones in the malls or outside? So what was the model like?
Sure. So these were more play as in product and play, not necessarily the outdoor equipment and the play areas that you see necessarily, but this was more like pick up a Lego set and let's build something with it, or pick up a activity on making a rocket, or a pottery activity, or a lot of hands-on activities of that nature. For example, they were relatively smaller in size as compared to the larger play areas that you see. It was all physical content, so we didn't necessarily have a video arcade or gaming consoles or things like that. And they were spaces where people could come and literally, like a retail store, pick up the product and take it home, or pick it up and say, hey, I want to do this in the activity center with the trainer itself, or at least get started and then carry it home with me.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept. That's why I, caught my attention, that having something like this where you can actually take and play, and similar to how I think a lot of now these brands are trying to do, create that experience for the consumers to experience. Yeah. So, Disha, moving forward, I have one linked question to you regarding Imagimake, how it has evolved and grown over the years from its inception, as you were talking about that, and also how big are we today?
Right. So I think to continue the story from where we were in a way, while we started as a activity center, moved into product, around 2014, it started becoming very apparent to us that, the scale and the size that we were at that time, the bandwidth that we had, it was going to be extremely difficult to have a service business and a product business going parallelly. So that's when we decided to focus more on the product side of things and started winding down the activity centers. So since then, basically, the journey has been more about creating a better product portfolio, understanding the retail landscape, because back then, online wasn't even significantly present, right? Online was just starting to come in. So we've grown with that. Initially, we were more looking at the offline route only, because that was the way to reach consumers. So that was an entirely different challenge in terms of building the network, understanding that space. Even modern trade, for that matter, Hamleys is a lot more recent in the landscape in India as compared to where our journey started. So through the years, our business has evolved in so many ways, right? I mean, we've gotten a much better understanding of how to create better products. The number of SKUs that we have has increased rapidly. The channels have changed drastically. And with each step, we are learning as we grow. So that's where we are. And I'm sure Ravi can come in and talk more about the growth aspect and where we are right now. I think I'll let him take that part up.
Sure. So, Anupam, just to add to what Disha said, we started with offline, and like Disha rightly said, that time, e-commerce was still very nascent. So, actually, when we started, trying to market our products into third-party outlets, initially when we started, it was all in our own, activity centers. But when you take your product outside your activity center and take it to a third party, that is when, the reality of distribution and marketing dawns on you. That, I mean, right now we were used to selling it to a very captive audience, right? Who are used to buying with us, interacting with us. So, but the moment we took it out, then we realized the challenges of distribution, like, getting the unit economics right. Even if you are able to get your product on the shelf, what are you doing to get your product off the shelf? So I think this entire learning curve of distribution was, I think, a pretty bumpy ride for us, frankly, for the first couple of years. And so we focused a lot of our energy initially just on a couple of markets. So, we took Bombay and Pune as our, I would say, case markets, where we thought that let's start, try to build some traction before we try to probably, go for distribution in a larger way. And I think, there are so many things for us to learn and refine, because right from product to the packaging, to the pricing, it's like getting the basics of marketing right. We were, I mean, that's Philippe, Kotler live in action for us here. So, I think we really got a very good exposure, as to how actually things can work in those years. I mean, it was a pretty slow start for us, I would say, in that way that that we were able to figure out how to actually take that product into distribution. So while
Right.
doing that, we also continuously, we also realize that this is a space where you need to continuously innovate, right? You
Right.
need larger. See, this is I mean, the consumption space is very different over here. I mean, this is even if your product is very good, an average user is only going to buy your product once in their lifetime, right? If you buy
Very
a
true.
product once, you're not going to buy the same product again. You may try something else, right? So,
Right.
so it's typically it's a long tail category like books or music where you are buying that same content probably once, and then you may look
Mm.
for different content next time when you're out to purchase.
Very
So,
true.
having a larger portfolio. I mean, so some of these things we were able to probably understand, realize, in our early days, and I think a lot of our effort
Mm.
was towards trying to build that organization where we can focus on product development. We can get our unit economics right so that the product can be scaled up in a profitable manner. And I think so. I mean, I think I would probably spend a couple of years between Mumbai and Pune, just to probably get these things right. So I think by 2015, and and I mean every 6 months I think we used to have a discussion ki karna hai ya nahi karna hai. You know? But I
Right.
think by 2015 we were able to muster some courage to try to take it, expand it, and I think the learnings of those 2 years was fantastic in multiple ways.
Mm.
So I think by that time, frankly, the ecosystem has also evolved.
Mm.
So 2015, e-commerce started becoming a lot more significant than it was.
Right. Right.
Modern trade also started making a little more headway in our category.
Right.
So I think go to market became a little easier also in those
Right.
couple of years. So we
तो
could
आज कितना बड़ा है हमारा, if you say Imagica is how big today?
so Imagimake is how big in terms of
Imagimake.
what? In terms of reach, in terms
Whatever number you're comfortable sharing.
So, frankly, we have seen a pretty good growth in last 5 years, I would say, where we have been doubling ourselves, and we are now at a stage where we are, probably going to hit, 1 lakh units per month in terms of sales. So,
That is something
yeah, and
amazing.
so we operate out of a 25,000 square feet facility located in Vasai, which is where I am right now. And 170 workers in our factory, and overall, I think we have we're pretty thriving offline distribution as well. So we reach close to, I think, 5,000 outlets right now, retail outlets, through our 100 distributors. So I think we have been able to probably take a more omni-channel approach,
Mm.
where our products are available both online as well as offline. And I think walking that tightrope has been a continuous challenge. But yeah, so far I think we have been able to manage to do that in terms of channel and distribution. So we have also seen good traction internationally. So it's like US is a pretty good market for us, and we have seen some successful
Mm.
we have been able to
International
launch
markets
in
is
a couple of large chains.
markets is online channel for you?
It's both online and offline.
Okay.
So we have worked with some very a couple of large chain stores also. Like Jalan is a chain of craft stores in US. They have around 800 outlets across US. We work with Carrefour in Romania and a couple of other countries where they have we have been in their toy section. And we also have distributors in several, other countries in Europe and Asia who continuously deal in our products for their local markets.
Sure.
So that is, more or less about our, distribution right now.
So if I
Nice.
can put it this way, I think you started as a very unique offline D2C brand, right? And then you are now into a completely omni-channel presence. Beautiful story.
Yeah.
So Ravi, since you touched upon international markets, maybe you can also touch upon the potential or the market size, if you may know some numbers or some metrics which can help us understand how big is the toy market in India and as well as globally. What are the key segments and where in which segment, because it's a vast market as we understand, in which segment Imagimake play?
Sure. So, toys and games as the market, is typically classified is globally, more than $100 billion market. And so typically, you have outdoor categories and you have indoor categories. So like all your board games, puzzles, art and craft, these are typically collectibles, action figures. These are all in your indoor category, plush. And then you have an outdoor category, which includes products like, guns or, some skateboards or things like that, typically which are, consumed outdoors. So we typically operate in the indoor categories, and the categories that we play around are more focused on skill development, more focused on hands-on play, more focused on active play. So which is sometimes also loosely classified as STEM categories or STEAM categories. So these categories typically account for around, I would say, 25 to 30% of the overall market, and that's where we operate. Now, if you look at the overall market, US is one of the largest market with close to $40 billion out of that 100 billion. So 40% of the global market is US. And India, is still at a very nascent stage. So India is probably at somewhere around 1.3, $1.4 billion. So, I mean, that is the, one of the key aspects of the per capita consumption of toys in India is still, probably only 2%, 3% of the developed countries. And obviously, there's a factor of this huge denominator of population, which always, brings down the per capita numbers in India. But I think even otherwise, I think there's a significant headroom for the market to grow, So if you look at the overall space, what we have seen is that toy being a discretionary spend, always grows at a much faster pace in, developing or developed countries compared to, underdeveloped markets. So I think that is another aspect which basically gives us some confidence that there's a market which has a much larger potential in India in the days to come. So
I think India doesn't have a lot of manufacturers also, because since your approach is also from manufacturing to the retail company, so it's a very few manufacturers, because China dominates this market.
I mean, in this space, see, China is more than 80% of the market. Right. So globally, not only in India, but China is globally 80% of the toy manufacturing. So I think that is something which has been there as one of the key factors. With a lot of government intervention push, I think that is also changing a little bit. So we have seen that the domestic market is also, I mean, the domestic manufacturing of toys is growing at a much faster pace now. So, with Make in India push, with changes with this, there's a new BIS order which requires your toys to have a BIS license, and, some changes in the import duty structures. So a lot of these factors have influenced the overall ecosystem. And now we see that the domestic players are, probably playing a slightly bigger role than they used to probably 5 years back. So.
And on that note, on China's dominance, right? It's been through. We have like all grown up, probably using some of those toys as well. And you also chose a market which is quite competitive and fragmented, right? From large players to even small players which are present all over. So maybe my next question is to you, Disha, that how is this competition landscape in this industry? And when you especially started Imagimake back in 2012 to now, how has the competition changed and how are you managing to carve out your space here?
Sure. So I think that innovation is key, right? I mean, if you're able to create innovative products, differentiated content, that is what will help, and that has what has helped us, right? For example, we have several design registrations, patent. We have even a US patent, for example, for this product, which is basically like it's called a quilling machine. So for those who are not very familiar, quilling is not a technique that we've created. It's a technique that has existed. Quilling quilling basically involves taking strips of paper like this and creating two-dimensional or three-dimensional creations, right? But traditionally, it's been a very mundane activity which has to be done using like a manual pen needle that you sit and coil each strip. Now, for something like this, which looks gorgeous, you would have to make 20 coils, 20 strips here, 30 here, so on and so forth. A child wouldn't possibly spend that much patience and time in doing it. So that's where we said that, okay, how can we disrupt this space? What else can we do? How can we make this play pattern accessible and interesting for children? Which is where this automated tool came about, right? So what this does is it allows me to insert this strip of paper, for example, over here. So there's a little slot that I can insert it in. And once I press the button, the machine is going to make the coil for me, right? So this is like just going to wind up the coil for me. And it's like, that's it. It's just that quick, right? If I were to sit and do this manually, it'll take me forever.
I want one of those right now.
Sure. And then you can...
One of the features actually, I mean,
Yeah.
same machine, you can actually join 20 strips and you can just coil them one after the other to make a large, desk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the colors.
Yeah. So innovation, you say, is key. What about price? Like, does the industry have a lot of price sensitivity, and especially because China dominates that aspect in terms of, basically having a price dominance. So,
Sure. So I think price is always an important lever. I think though that with the way we see the Indian consumer, especially right now, it's value more than price that we would like to target, right? I think that today a child is so busy that the time of the child is also very valuable. So if a parent sees that, okay, spending half an hour playing this, or, spending some time making the India map is going to help my child learn or grow in some way, that is going to justify the monetary spend behind that product a lot more easily as compared to anything else. Of course, you have to have the basics of the quality, your subject matter that you're addressing, whether you're being appealing to the family overall, both the parent who's actually buying the product and the child who has to be willing to give their time and attention to the play pattern. So as long as you check those basic check boxes and you're delivering value, the price is not going to be something basis which a decision is made negatively, so to speak, right? So we operate in an average price point of somewhere around 500 to 800. But for example, one of our best sellers on Amazon right now is 1,000+ product, right? So there you can see that if we're delivering value, we're getting good sales for something which is slightly above that average price point as well. I don't know, Ravi, if you want to add something to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also an element of TG that you are looking at, right? So, for example, we have always looked at, discerning parents who are, keen on providing the best for their kids, and not necessarily, I mean, we have seen that the audience is across India, not necessarily only on tier 1 or metro cities, but pretty much pan-India. So, what we feel is that people, with that kind of a, segment are quite okay paying a little bit premium also for the product. And as long as it can offer the desired play value, as long as it can offer the desired, quality. So I think with that segment, I think we do offer at a pretty, sweet spot, I would say. And, that is also evident in the number of ratings and reviews that you'll see on our products. So, I think probably as a toy brand, I think we have one of the largest number of reviews on Amazon, with more than 25,000 reviews, with an average rating of 4.2. So I think that does probably help us to, answer that part of the question that are we, competitive enough, or, are we adding value, in terms of play pattern or innovation to our products.
wonderful. And then tracing back a little bit to what you said earlier, right, about government providing a lot of support, especially the BIS requirement that has come in for every manufacturer. We also read about like toy clusters being set up. Then PM Modi has been very vocal for local toys. So there's this entire Make in India toy story that is being building right now. So since you've been in the industry for long, what has the government's focus? Has that been advantageous for you? Do you still see that more work needs to be done, more support is needed in this entire ecosystem, or there's enough and more for players to now operate and build like a Make in India Toy Story?
So, I think the way, the direction in which the industry is going has its own pros and cons, because India was largely reliant on imports till very recent, right? Now, I mean, having that shift overnight is extremely difficult, right? Because toy as an industry is very component driven. If you look at a particular toy, like the toy that, I mean, that tool that Disha was probably, just showing you right now, I mean, that has probably more than 20 components, including a motor, including springs, including electronic hardware. So, I mean, the biggest challenge is that the ancillary ecosystem in India is still very nascent, or I would say non-existent. So I mean, while we may be able to, there are a lot of toy manufacturers who have come up, I would say, in last couple of years. But I think a lot of backward integration, a lot of indigenization still needs to happen to really, add more credits to that story of Make in India. And I think maybe having such knee-jerk steps sometimes also disrupts the existing distribution systems, because you have distributors who are largely reliant on import products, right? And now suddenly if a big share of their portfolio is taken away, then their entire business model becomes unviable overnight. So I think those are certain challenges that has come up, but at the same time, it is definitely a huge opportunity for all of us to try to fill that gap, which has come up. So, it does require a lot more agility, a lot more, innovation from our side to be able to achieve that. So I think the opportunity is definitely there, but I mean, just needs a lot of work from the players to be able to do that, across categories.
So, Ravi, since we're speaking about some challenges that have come up now, and I'm sure in the entire journey, like you were earlier mentioning, you also faced there were a lot of learnings and a lot of challenges. But I want to specifically touch upon, since this again industry relies on skills, technology, and also a lot about raw material, because it is needs to be child friendly, or there needs to be some specificity where you want to, you can use certain materials. So, what are some of these major challenges do you face, while are working on Imagimake, and how did you overcome those challenges?
So I think we did touch upon some of them, initially in terms of like being able to continuously innovate. I think is one of the biggest challenge that we see in our business. It's almost thinking like a content company, that you're trying to come up with a release every month, and that has to hit the market and it has to be a hit. So, that's how we have to think for our product launches. And so that is something which I think is obviously a continuous challenge. I think team plays a very significant role. Disha and her team continuously keeps driving that, and we have a very elaborate product launch process, which we have developed over a period of time, right from design to, ideation to testing, till the time the product, goes live. So I think that is something which we are continuously working on. I think maintaining the sanctity of the supply chain is something which is also an ongoing process. Just to make sure that we are able to comply to the regulations of not only Indian market but also international markets, because our products do get shipped to US, UK, and all these countries have very strict, regulations around these products. So I think it was a very steep learning curve for us, but over a period of time, I think now we have reached a stage where our supply chain is able to respond to the requirements of these markets. So I think I would say that maybe it was a big concern, and for anyone who's very new in the industry, it will still be a big concern, but we have probably reached a stage in our journey where, our supply chain is able to meet the requirements on a very, regular basis on this front.
Since you touch upon, you have 35,000 square feet factory where you are, operating and manufacturing this. Can you also touch upon some of the technology that you have built in that factory?
So, so far our focus has been to, try to use the factory in a manner where we can, we can launch a lot of products in a cost efficient manner. So, what happens is that if you're working with third parties, and that was one of the challenges. So setting up a factory was more of a compulsion for us and not a choice. So when we started, actually, the bigger challenge was that, our MOQs were very small, right? We were not really looking at going very aggressive in terms of launches. So our idea was to try to test more and more ideas, but at a much smaller scale, right? So rather than going with a batch size of 5,000, we'll probably go with a batch size of 500 or 1,000, so that we can churn out those products, see how they are doing, and then decide which products to scale or which direction to pursue.
Right.
And now the biggest challenge was that, while our MOQs were small, our quality expectations were very high from day one. So to find a vendor who can, do both was extremely difficult. So, that was the time we had to take a conscious call that, we'll try to integrate backwards and do certain processes where we could see some synergies and set up our factory. So, that gave us that flexibility to, keep our investments low in working capital, try out smaller MOQs. So still a lot of our, production is done by third parties, but, where we have third party manufacturing, components are produced at third parties or sourced from third parties. And then all these components come to our factory where the final assembly, quality control and dispatch happens.
Understood.
It's more of an assembly factory that we work with. Now, as we progress in our journey, as we are reaching, some critical mass in certain products, we are looking at, trying to automate certain processes. We are looking to bring in more automation, more technology. But, it's more of a gradual process for us and, with an objective to bring in more efficiency rather than, looking at as one of our key, success drivers for us.
Right. No, it completely makes sense. I think I agree with you. So, Disha, a very different question to you, since you're sitting with a lot of toys behind you, and I want to, I want you to share an impactful success story of any of your best-selling toys that, or an instance where Imagica product made a significant difference in a child's development.
Sure. So I think, like you guys rightly mentioned, current success story is all about Chandrayaan. So I'm going to pick that one up right here. So that's our mission, Chandrayaan set. And this is a part of our celebrating the achievements of ISRO series. So we actually have a tie up with the Indian Space Research Organization, where we do work with them on getting certain amount of exclusive content, information, so on and so forth, which allows our design team to really be able to give children a very realistic experience of what is actually happening, right? So if you see our DIY model of the GSLV, or if you see the Chandrayaan model, the orbiter, the lander, the rover, they're all quite realistic within the realm of what's possible from a manufacturing perspective to be done. And these are, this is a play pattern which has just connected very, very beautifully with the audience. I mean, when I think about a year back, when we were starting to do research around a space-themed model making set, which would have like a DIY rocket, which a child can very simply assemble and reassemble and play several times, and we would go and talk to parents and children, we would keep hearing NASA, NASA, NASA. And we were like, why are all these kids in India just talking about NASA? Somebody has to tell them that there is a fantastic organization called ISRO who's doing amazing things that are recognized on a global level. And the narrative has to change here, right? So that's where we decided that can we do something about this, and can we connect with the relevant people? And I think it was great that we were able to connect with ISRO, get that done, bring in that relevance here. And this year, so we launched the first product in the series last year, which itself was being very well received. But with the Chandrayaan and all the missions that are going live this year, there was a greater push. I think the marketing team did a fantastic job in terms of just getting excellent product placement across thousands of outlets. We did so much on social. We did so much with so many partners. Everybody from the CEO of Blinkit was playing with our product the day the Chandrayaan launched, with his kids, to consumers everywhere. This year, the theme of Ganpati decoration has been around Chandrayaan, and we get calls from saying that, you have to get this to me in time. My Ganpati decoration is on hold because of this. So it's just something that has so beautifully connected with the audience on so many levels, from schools using it for an educational purpose to people using it in a celebration at their home, which has so much deep emotional connect with them. You can see that, being able to pick up a story which is relevant to the Indian consumer, prepare it, produce it, present it in an innovative and interesting manner, and keep it at a price point which is very accessible to as many people as possible, has been just an amazing journey and a story. So I just hope I've done enough justice to telling the story. So I'm sure if Ravi has something to add, he can
No, I
chip
think
in
that's
over here.
completely everything.
So I have two points to say. One is on the fact that children were speaking about NASA. Today, NASA is speaking about ISRO. So there is
Yes.
a major shift. The second thing is, I have seen when was the first time I saw around the Chandrayaan launch, I saw a product of yours. And I felt that, oh my God, this is a real Chandrayaan. This looked like exactly real Chandrayaan. Yeah. So I wasn't aware that you had a collaboration with this ISRO, but I really felt that looking at your products, they are very close to the real one, and hence in the child's learning and journey, this would really be very aided or beneficial for them to experience it.
Absolutely.
So
And I
thanks to
think you
both of you.
expanded your target market a little bit with that product as well, right? So not just kids, now people with their Ganpati decorations, and even we want one model in our home. So your market target segment is definitely expanding with this.
Even from the marketing side, Rinko, I'm thinking from an ideation point of view now. I'm getting a lot of ideas now. If you see from this lens or this window, that so many products can come out from this window of opportunity when you look at major events which are happening, and then probably participating in those events and
Right,
creating something which is exciting for kids and around that
exactly.
event. Yeah. So it is
Right,
current affairs plus learning.
right.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so on that note, we see some trends shifting in toys, right? You touched upon some of them, right? DIY models are picking up, and then the close connectivity with real life events is possibly a trend that you would have seen. Um, any other trend that you see which is impacting the toy industry, or you see which is going to disrupt the toy industry in the future?
So I think there's always seasonality, there's always themes, there's always occasions around which certain things pick up. I mean, the larger toy industry, of course, benefits a lot from characters and character-driven business as well. Then there's specific characters like your Paw Patrol and Barbie and different Avenger products and so on and so forth. But then there's also just general themes, like for example unicorn. Now a unicorn is something that is so ubiquitous in terms of every item that a 5 to maybe even 3 to 8 year old girl consumes, or even slightly older, I would say. That there are certain things that one can pick up which are very generic in nature. There are certain license driven brands, there are certain trends in terms of play pattern, like you rightly mentioned. Technology integration into products is another one that a lot of big companies are trying their hands with, and that's still a space where there's a lot more exploration and learning on an industry level that needs to be done to really crack the golden formula, so to speak, over there. But I think that toys that offer novelty is something that really draws attention, right? So, because there's so much content that is being driven to consumers through social media, through various channels, that two things are happening. Achieving novelty has started becoming harder and harder and harder. And two, attention spans are reducing. So now the challenge as a designer is that you've got to have something that catches the eye, captivates, retains attention, but is also very quick and easy to understand and do, because attention spans are being reduced by the day. So that's the space that we are in. I'm sure Ravi may have something to add, so he can talk more about it from his perspective as well.
I mean, probably just one more aspect which I'd like to add is sustainability is something which we think is, really picking up on the theme. And especially in international markets, I think that's becoming, probably one of the key drivers. So we see, uh, people, really, especially the end consumers, moving towards products which are more sustainable, coming from a more sustainable supply chain, So I think all those aspects are, becoming more and more important, and I'm sure in India also it'll probably catch up in coming days.
Right.
Right.
Rinku, can I add small two bits here? And maybe I would ask Disha. So one, Disha, when you spoke about characters, so characters has a big market,
Mhm.
right? And people really are mad about, I think all age are mad about these characters. So is there a Indian story to these characters? Because I saw some time back there was like Chota Bheem to Hanuman to all these characters were also being made popular. So is that angle, is that story is continuing, or there is no much merit? That is one. And second is an observation. It's a personal observation that unicorns have become so famous that I don't feel they deserve to be so famous, but somehow they become so famous that, like you're saying, when I see outside, yeah, so
And,
all
and
the
the sad part is it's a mythical creature. So my son tells me,
huh,
I want to see a unicorn. Where do you find a unicorn? It doesn't
only
exist.
on merchandise you will find unicorn. So yeah, so Disha, yeah, first maybe if you can answer that part.
But I like to add over here that, when you look at, I mean, so much of our world is around mystical creatures, I mean, if you look at entire epics of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the characters that we celebrate and love, I don't think anyone has seen them or come across them. So I think that entire, inclination towards, I think, mythical creatures is always a lot more. I think the changing trend is that probably now people are more inclined towards more realistic things as well, like ISRO. Which is otherwise, and I think characterization is just trying to put in some, personality to those mythical creatures, right? So that's where Marvels and everything come into picture. But I think the real trend that I see is that a lot of real world, concepts or real world, events are also getting, a lot more traction that they used to probably, some time back.
Right. And I think characterization is also a way to add fingerprint to your products, right? Because each of your product is very unique. You have to innovate with every product as such. So it kind of stitches like a theme, or that helps you have like a fingerprint all over.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what brand does for you, or that's
Yeah.
what it does
Yeah,
for you. It adds a personality to your brand. It adds some kind of a, story to the
right.
thing,
No, it's
Right.
a property. It's a property in itself, So all these are big, big properties which brands have built over a period of time. Yes,
Yeah.
Right.
Rinku.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
one interesting question to possibly both of you is being in the industry, in the space yourself, right? Your entrepreneurship journey now through 12 years, I must say, commendable. Any advice that you would have to young entrepreneurs who are aspiring to build either in this space or in general, trying to be part of India's startup story? So any advice for entrepreneurs? I'm sure
Okay.
you have many.
I guess Ravi's pausing, so I'll take this up and I'm sure he'll add to
I'm
that.
not very good at giving advice, I'm so.
No, I don't think any of us are, to be very honest. But I think that what I'm going to say is, like Ravi said, we're learning, we're growing. So I'll keep it short. I think I'll go to what I often hear and learn from him is dream big. And then I'll add my bit to it, which is to stay patient. While your dreams may be fantastically amazing and big, but it's very important to have the patience, the resilience, to know that things may not always grow and work at the pace and in the manner that you imagine them in your head. So just have a lot of patience, have a smile, show up every day for a new challenge, a new roller coaster, a new surprise that's awaiting you. And yeah, just know that if you're doing something that you truly believe in, that's adding value to the world, somewhere down the line, it's all going to work out. So just have the patience and stick around till you see that day come.
That's
Beautiful,
my that's
beautiful.
my WhatsApp status, by the way. Growth mantra: sign up and show up.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
very right. So
I
maybe
don't know, Ravi, if you can top that, but if you want to.
Like I said, my advisory days got over with, my journey in consulting. So, but yeah, I mean, like Disha said, I think it's important to, and business, just one more, slightly more technical point to it that, I think have a very good understanding of your business economics and what you really want to achieve. Because, sometimes we get carried away with, a lot of noise around us. So, I think having a very, clear understanding of our business economics and our alignment with the vision, I think these are the factors which I think just, makes things a little easier.
Right. So now this is our pet question and a very question that we ask all our uh, participants is based on our channel name. Our channel name is Really, and what it means is like, what is your aha moment or a really moment that you cherish, or if you can share that moment with us in your entire journey. It could be a personal anecdote or a professional learning or something that is very close to your heart and you really feel is very special for. So maybe I would expect one example from both of you to over here.
So I think maybe I can go, Disha, if you are thinking. And so, very recently, actually, we have closed a funding round with Pidlite Ventures. And so that was last week, in fact, or 10 days back, probably, And that investment will really give us a lot of, it's actually a validation of, what we have been building also so far. And, I think we have a great partner in terms of Pidlite to help us in our future growth journey. So I think that has been, probably a very significant milestone in our recent history, and I think probably could be one of a great growth driver for us in days to come.
Very
And
nice.
yeah, Disha, if you want to add something.
So I think, of course, that's an amazing milestone and a beautiful dream that has seen the light of day. So it's very, very rewarding. So from that macro, I'll probably go to a micro one, which is literally something that I'm lucky to be able to see come in not once, but several times, is literally every time I can see the excitement in the eyes of a child when they start playing with a product that we've spent months maybe creating and debating, and to see the joy and the connect that they have when they build the model up, or when they create a quilling creation, or there's a new product which is based on a technology called swipe and reveal, which has got this wow factor. So when they actually swipe and it comes back and they're like, oh wow, how did that happen? So if we're able to create those moments of joy and wonder, connection between families, and some amount of learning and growth that's coming in through that, and when we're actually able to see that in action in the eyes of the children and the families, that has its own reward in itself.